Mark Lawrenson, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Yeah, so look, these cup games, you get to this stage of the cup and you're very, very close. It's touching distance at this point. And yet West Ham obviously feel like the league is so important and they're going so well that they couldn't quite put all of their eggs in the cup basket. I'm sure there was a bit of tension in David Moyes' team selection before he actually decided what to do. Yeah,
I think it's one of those when he probably thought he maybe picked his team strong enough to win the fixture. He'd be probably second guessing as well the team that Manchester United were going to pick, and just unfortunately for them got it wrong. But I mean, I think his remit, well, I know his remit at the start of the season because I know him particularly well, it was that, make sure we stay in the Premier League. That's the all-important thing. And while he'll be disappointed, I think privately it'll be right, OK, let's concentrate on the league and let's try and finish in the top 10. I mean, at the start of the season, probably most people would have thought they'd be round about, lower than halfway, most definitely, probably top of a bottom six. So they've done remarkably well so far, but yeah, they're out now, so they've got to forget about it.
They've done brilliantly, and that's the bit where you wonder if there's part of his mindset going into that match last night going, we're well ahead of where we're supposed to be, and this is a chance for a trophy. I totally understand your gig is your gig. Stay in the league, finish as high as you can. Every point is worth an extra £1 million, which is essentially the same as winning the cup anyway. Business is business. Yeah,
and also, I mean, even by the time the cup final, it probably there'll be no supporters, so that takes obviously a lot away from the competition. As we know, we saw with Marine, although what they did was brilliant. But yeah, I mean, so if he finished, say, in the top 10, I don't know how many millions it would be, but rather than finish in the sort of 16th place, which they have been doing, they'll be happy. And I think as well, I spoke to him the other week after Soucek got sent off actually by Mike Dean, which is a completely another story. And he's just saying to the players that, let's aim for Europe in terms of the league. And if we fall a bit short, we fall a bit short, but we'll still be in a very good position. And I think the thing with Moyes is that he's the type of manager that just needs time. And I know not necessarily you get any time in the Premier League, but the good thing for him was that the hierarchy at West Ham already knew him. So they knew what he was like. And he started to build a team, and he's just said that the players have been excellent. They've all bought into what they're trying to do. He said the very first thing he was trying to do was make them difficult to beat, which he's done. And now, obviously, they started winning games against good sides. So they've just got to keep going.
On Manchester United then, Mark, Scott McTominay scored again last night. 7 goals and 30 appearances for Manchester United this season. He's starting to add a little bit of attacking potential to his game, attacking evidence to his game. I think that's as many goals as he scored in his previous 84 appearances for the club. Are you now looking at a player that is coming into form slowly but surely, that Manchester United, if they had ambitions to sign perhaps another midfielder this summer, they might actually say, hold on, Scott McTominay is a pretty good starting Premier League midfielder?
Yeah, no, I think he is. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think when he came in at first, obviously massive enthusiasm, but you kind of thought, OK, well, that's obviously, that's something that you have to do. His passing was OK, his work rate was outstanding, as you would expect. But then you're kind of saying, well, does he really influence the game? And the answer to that would have been actually no. But as you rightly say, now he started to get the goals. He's got the confidence, and he's a big boy, and he's big and he's strong, and also normally he has Fred in there with him, which also helps. So I think from United's point of view, he's been an absolute bonus because, as we know, with all the big teams, all the big six, they're more than happy just to go and sign somebody and bring them in. And more often than not, a lot of these young players just do not get a chance. So the fact he's played so many games as well already this season just tells you that he's highly rated by the manager, which has been a bonus for Manchester United.
The assist, I think, then came from Marcus Rashford, and while there have been question marks around his lack of goals or maybe just the lack of killer instinct in front of goal at times this season, he is still putting up good numbers when it comes to his chance creation. Is it just a different Marcus Rashford we have seen this year, Mark?
Yeah, I think so. And as you know, with all the things he's done off the pitch as well, and that will have its toll at times because, generally with professional footballers at this level, they've got absolutely nothing to worry about. come in, train, go home, repeat, play games, win games, repeat. So, yeah, I think so. And I think he's, Rashford's a top player. I think the thing with Manchester United as well is they've played him different positions already this season, wide on the left of a three or through the middle on his own or on the right as well. And I just think it's part of his development. And the thing for Manchester United, they've got so many options in terms of the forward players. So Rashford, even if he doesn't score, there's one thing about him, he does aid with the assists. I think defensively as well, I think he's extremely well coached. That was one of the features of Sir Alex Ferguson when he had the team, and players went on loan, and the club that took these young players on loan would come back and say, "Wow, they said they're already in terms of actual understanding football ahead of any of the players who've got at their own team." So it's all part of it, and I think with Manchester United they do have match winners, and they have plenty of them, and I don't suppose to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer really particularly matters who scores the goals and who's playing week in, week out, because apart from the odd hiccup, they're having a good season so far.
What do you make of the progress Solskjaer is showing? Is it pointing in the right direction? Is it trending the right way?
Yeah. I think it's taken him an awful long time to kind of decide which is his best team, which obviously you see he puts out in the big games. I think Fernandes has been an absolute... he's been brilliant, quite honestly, and I don't say that about too many players in the Premier League when they ever first come in. I think as well, if you're a forward in this Manchester United team and Fernandes is playing, he always looks to pass forward, and he's not frightened to give the ball away by trying actually to play players in. So as soon as he gets on the ball, the likes of Martial, Greenwood, Rashford, all these kind of players are sort of running, thinking, I'm going to get it, he'll deliver it. His passing is brilliant alongside with everything else. So, no, he's done really, really well on Solskjaer. And he said, I think, at the start of the season, if you remember, lost at home to Crystal Palace 2-1, lost at home to Tottenham 6-1. And, you'd expect him to say this anyway, but he was saying, look, we're not ready. We're not ready. We haven't really had a pre-season. This is going to take a lot longer than other teams. And he was absolutely, totally right, and has proven so far. But he needs to win something, because if you're a Manchester United manager, as David Moyes, if you're a Manchester United manager and you don't win anything, it pales into insignificance when you see all the honours, obviously, that Fergie won in his time as manager there.
That's why the cup game last night was actually really important from Solskjaer's perspective. And it's funny that he's definitely also trying to juggle when to pick the team, when not to pick the team, when to pick the players that he's going to rely on for the rest of the season as well. So, if we don't think they're going to win the league at this point. It looks like it's Manchester City's league.
Yeah.
But if you're United, are you confident enough that team is going to carry into the top four, and therefore actually the cups are the priority now? Or how do you measure these two things?
I think it's both. You try and win as many games as you possibly can. They have very, very few injuries, certainly at the moment. So why not, sort of concentrate on every single trophy in terms of the division or obviously the cup competition that you're in, and give yourself a bigger chance as possible. So I think that'll just be the way they are. They'll definitely finish in the top four. I think we've seen already some strange results throughout the course of the season. Up until last weekend in the Premier League, wasn't there more away victories than home victories, which is unheard of. So he'll just be basically, excuse me, and it is true, especially with the way you are at the moment. It is one game at a time. Try and pick your best side as often as possible, with the odd exception, maybe one or two players who you might just rest for a game, thinking the legs are a little bit tired. But no, he just got to push on, because he's under pressure because of Sir Alex Ferguson, because of the fact that Mourinho, Moyes, etc. didn't do particularly well, or didn't do anything like Sir Alex Ferguson, which is difficult to do anyway. So, yeah, and I think you don't want to be an ex-Manchester United manager who had all that money to spend and all those good players and all the backing of the club, and not actually win a competition, because I think you'd be branded as a failure, which is the price. Basically, that's the price of success at that football club. It
feels like David Moyes is kind of finally shaking off that Manchester United period.
Yeah. He was, I mean, I know him really well and stuff, and he doesn't live too far away from me when obviously he's not in London. And he was just miffed at the fact that when he took the job, first day, Evra came to him and said, look, I've done this deal to go and play in Italy, so I'm off at the end of the season. Rio Ferdinand's legs were going. I think that was by his own admission. Patrice Evra said as well he'd been told by the football club that he could leave in the summer. So he said 3 of the back 4, who have all been outstanding players, were basically on his first day were saying, well, nice to meet you, good luck, but we're off at the end of the season. So, and bearing in mind what I told you before about Moyes, is that he's a builder. He's a builder of teams, and it takes time. So, yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? I mean, you just got to get on with it. But the thing about Manchester United is, when you finish whatever you're doing, when you finish coaching and even playing and stuff, and the fact you're involved at Manchester United is fantastic. And Fergie picked him, didn't he? Which was even better for Moyes. What
really impressed me over the last period of time is that he seems to have gone off and travelled around Europe and spent time understanding the scouting systems and the analytic systems of all of these, and not just the big clubs. Like he was willing to go and talk to some of the smaller clubs to see what they were doing and how they were being innovative.
Well, because the thing about him, he obviously started off at Preston, what Championship now, so he knows what it's like at that level. He knows that you need every bit of help that you can get. But also, he worked for UEFA, so when the Champions League was on, etc., he'd be going to games and he'd be kind of discussing tactics. He'd sort of write these plans for UEFA about the way that teams played, some teams that played a little bit different, all those kind of things. And he is just no stone left unturned, and he's got lots of contacts in the game. And what he's very good at, actually, and he's very trustworthy generally, is spending your money if you're the owner of the football club, because he buys a certain player who's not quite the finished article and thinks obviously he can work on him and make him better. And with due deference to him at West Ham United, that's what he's done. He took the boy Bowen from Hull for, I think, it's about 20 million quid. And I remember having a conversation with him, and he said to me, have you seen him? I said, I've seen him a few times. I saw him play at Preston a few times against them. I said, he looks a good player. He says, well, I'm not quite sure if he's got the pace to play in the Premiership. And he's a bit like that. He does dilly and he does dally at times, but when he makes his decision, and Bowen's done extremely well for them. If you think about Souček as well, that's another really good signing of his. He'll get it right, and as I say, the owners can trust him with their money. It's very, very easy to spend someone else's money, and then you get the sack and you walk away and you come up with a myriad of excuses. But he spends the money for the football club like it's his own money, and don't forget, he's Scottish.
What did you make of Jurgen Klopp killing the poor Israeli TV reporter live in front of a television audience and now an internet audience of tens of millions of people the other day?
You can just see with Jurgen Klopp at the moment. It's not a good time to go up and ask him for a favour, is it? So, look, I think the problem with Jurgen is just very much what you see is what you get. And I've been down to the training club to the training ground a few times, and the number of kind of demands and requests on managers now in the Premier League is just absolutely nuts. It's not just Liverpool. It's certainly all the top 6. It's just mad. And occasionally he loses it. You can see that in him. And I think that's part and parcel of his makeup. And I think that's why players want to play for him, because they know when they're winning and everything, and he's great, and his communication skills are excellent. But I know, and I've seen it, that he gives it to the players when he thinks that they need to give it. He's under a bit of pressure. But I think the thing with Liverpool is that it's a good thing in many ways now, because they can just forget about ambitions of winning the league and just start playing again. And I think the other thing with them as well, I was just saying the other day to somebody, say, look, they've had to cover for Van Dijk and for Gomez, etc. But I think now's the time where basically he's got to pick his best midfield, and we know what the front three would be generally, and just say to him, right, boys, let's just go out, let's get back to the good old days of pressing, etc., and let's spend most of the match in the opposition's half, therefore making chances and scoring goals. And I'd play one of the young kids now, like Phillips, who came in and did absolutely nothing wrong for me, and he's probably, the manager thought the game was a bit too big for him at the weekend. Just give somebody like him a run, the new boy they signed from Schalke, Kabak as well. And what's the worst thing that can happen? They're not winning games. I don't know what it is in the last 10, but the record is really, really poor. So go back to out making your strength again. Take Fabinho out, put him in midfield. Take Henderson out and put him in midfield. And just start winning football matches again. I do think that sometimes in football, the way it is now, we kind of overanalyze it. But basically, if you looked at Liverpool, from midfield going forward, all those players were unbelievable last year, and now they've been chopping and changing, and I think that would make a difference. It's one of those which is, come on boys, let's go out and play. There's no pressure. Let's go out and enjoy ourselves, and they'll start winning games again because they've got some outstanding players.
If we're seeing a dark version of Jurgen Klopp in front of a microphone after the game, you say that what you see is what you get with Jurgen Klopp. It's probably what we're seeing in the dressing room as well. That probably isn't necessarily in an environment where players can play with that freedom that you mentioned there.
What in terms of? Are you saying in terms of what he says to the players?
Yeah, it definitely seems that his mood has soured quite a bit over the last couple of months, whereas the happy Jurgen Klopp, I'm sure, was one of the reasons why the players were like, I love this environment and I can express myself. Yeah,
we ain't seen his pearly white teeth on too many occasions, aren't we? Unless he's gnashing. But listen, there's one thing about all the players at that football club. They absolutely, totally respect him because he's, I think, to a man, all the players that he had when he took over, excuse me, all the players that he's brought in, he's made them better players. So you don't suddenly have no respect for your manager. It's just a little bit more difficult then because when you're losing games, because everyone tends to doubt everything. They doubt themselves as players, they doubt the manager, etc. There's no problem there with the players because the players absolutely love him. It's just the fact, if you think about it, I mean, the last 3 seasons, they've been absolutely outstanding. Obviously won the Premier League last year and came within a whisker at one point of the year before with Manchester City. And I think sometimes with managers as well is that players kind of sit there and thinking, same old, same old, same old in terms of what they say. But when you're there for 3, 4, 5 years, it will be that. And that's where... And I go back to Sir Alex Ferguson, which is he was very, very clever insofar as just turning players over, bringing new players in. They're always your own players, and it's a massive difference at football. That if the team or the squad that you can pick from, if you're the manager, you bought nearly all of them in because they have that extra respect for you because you've actually decided to pay the money and bring them into the football club. I've seen Jurgen at Melwood. Obviously, they've now gone to Kirby, but and I've watched them train. And while it's intense, they also have a laugh. And the thing with him, and he has got such a good personality. He encourages that with everybody. And you saw Milner when he got taken off. Where was it? It was at West Ham, wasn't it? And questioned it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You don't want robots, but he's kind of got the personality and the acumen to deal with all those kind of things. So I don't see that being a problem. Listen, if you said tomorrow that Jurgen Klopp walked away from Liverpool, all the top teams in the world will come and manage us because he is that good.
Yeah, and they'd be devastated. Are you anyway concerned about what's happening at the moment? Do you think Liverpool can get back to being as good as they were last year, next year?
Good question. Last year, next year, I would like to think so. It looks like that. I think Van Dijk will play before the end of the season, and because they've named him in the squad, haven't they? So I think apparently he's obviously coming back. Jota's probably only maybe a week away. Might even be involved this weekend. Yeah, I don't see why not. And I think it's like anything. Recruitment, I think. So your head of recruitment at any Premier League football club now is the second most important job in the building after the manager. Because if you get that wrong, then obviously you might suffer for kind of a year, 18 months, 2 years. But the guy, Michael Edwards, has done a magnificent job at Liverpool. So my answer, my very long-winded answer to your question is yes, I do think so.
Just one last thing I wanted to put to you, Mark. It's on one of the stories of the week. It is Phil Foden shooting the lights out against Liverpool on Sunday. Pep Guardiola's reaction has been interesting. He said he has to be calm and to understand that tough periods are going to come. It depends if he's humble on his love for the game, the expectations, and we will see if he can handle it. It's fairly tough love from Pep Guardiola. Is that what you want to see if you're a Manchester City, if you're an England fan?
Yes, absolutely, totally. I mean, you can only talk about, as an ex-player, you can only talk about your time in the game. That's the way Liverpool were, and when you think of some of the quality of some of the players that they had, the likes of, Dalglish, who was a genius, and Rush and Souness and all those kind of guys, that's the way it is. You'd come in and, you'd win games 4-0, beat Norwich at home 4-0 or something, and you come into the dressing room, there's no whooping, there's no hollering, and somebody like Joe Fagan or Ronnie Moran would say, well, he said, well done, boys. He said, but to be fair, he said, my local team, Crosby, would have beaten Norwich today, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the fact that you're only as good as your next game, and then therefore you worry about, so you're only as good as your last game, and therefore you worry about the next. And I think Pep, I get the impression that I think he thinks that Foden's is a bit like his love child, isn't he? I think so with him, and he knows the outstanding ability he's got, and if he keeps progressing, how good he can be. And he's just saying to him, look, aim for the sky, and if you just fall a little bit short, you'll still be an outstanding footballer. And I think Foden obviously seems to be quite a sensible boy. He's just got fantastic ability, and he's lucky he plays in a team that wants to play football all the time, which will only improve his game.
Is football coming home? Are England going to win the Euros this year, Mark?
Who? England?
Yeah.
No. We always have this over here with England. It's just that thing. They just get built up. They win a couple of games. Listen, in the World Cup in Russia, who did they actually beat? I know I don't need to convince you, but I was saying to people, who did they actually beat? Not really an outstanding side. As soon as they played an outstanding side, i.e. Belgium, they go out. But that's just the way it is with England. As a football team, they expect to win absolutely everything, and end up winning nothing. Remember the World Cup in South Africa? They had the worst record of anyone after the first two games. They just don't perform, I don't think, at any level because of the pressure on them generally.
Right. I don't think many people expected them to do that well. Maybe I'm misremembering, Mark, but I do think there was an appreciation at the time that England team wasn't great in Russia, and Gareth Southgate almost slightly overachieved by getting to a semi-final, whereas this time he's got a much better squad.
I would agree 100% with that in terms of much better squad. But the teams they had to play against, when you look certainly in the league basis at the start, they were ordinary generally. I mean, apart from Belgium, they were quite ordinary. It's just the way the press are over here. That they have all these players, and they'll be talking about Rashford and all those kind of players, and as you say, Foden going into these games, Grealish, all these kind of players. They all can't play. That's the first thing, and that's the first problem that Gareth Southgate has is to find his best team, which I think's really difficult when you're an international manager, because you only play so many games. Friendlies generally are an absolute total waste of time. So then you build in the expectation level, because they're all playing in the Premier League, and everybody goes to the Premier League and goes, oh, this England team, have you seen them? They can do this, they can do that. I'll ask you a question. When was the last time England went to a competition actually everybody thought they might have a chance of winning it? And when I say everybody, people away from England looking objectively at the team that they had and the squad that they had.
Is it 96? Is it that far back?
There you go. You've answered my question for me, because I can't remember last week.
I think it might be. I think it might be that far back when you had Shearer in the team and it was a home tournament, and so therefore everybody was like, well, this guy's pretty good. So look, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of good young talent bubbling up, and
well, the other thing is it going to happen?
That's a good question.
Is it? Well, is it? I don't. Is it going to happen? I mean, and this was Platini's idea, wasn't it, to play in so many different cities, which which sounded great at the time, and obviously you weren't to know about the pandemic, etc. But even then, you're kind of thinking, you know, I've been to nearly all these competitions over the last 25 years, and one of the things is it's always in one country, or maybe occasionally in the Euros, it might be in two, you know, double cities in terms of hosting it. But there's a real feeling about, you know, it's in these countries, everybody gets behind it. But there's so many games in so many different places, you're kind of thinking, what is it? And I'm like, UEFA and FIFA, they have to do something every single major competition to try and change it. It works. It works without all this. We remember fantastic Euros, fantastic World Cups. Just leave it alone. But they won't. And of course, the bottom line is it's all about money.
Yeah. Mark, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million. That was brilliant.
No worries.